Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Duncan. I'm the Program Director of Games to Change Africa, and I have a question for you. Can games help end hunger? The United Nations World Food Programme has spent the last 20 years showing that they can. In this fireside chat, we celebrate 2 decades of pioneering work at the intersection of games, humanitarian action, and innovation. We will hear the remarkable story behind the World Food Programme's gaming journey, the lessons learned along the way, and how games have helped mobilize millions to support food security around the world. It has been my absolute honor to work with these 2 incredible humans who have taught me that in order to make a difference in the world, all you need to do is keep trying. Please join me in welcoming Susanna Pollack back to the stage, along with Darko Petrovic from the World Food Programme, as we look into how the games industry can help outplay hunger.
Great. How are we feeling? Woo! I love it. Let's get some energy. I mean, today's been phenomenal, and yesterday's been phenomenal. And I think we're going to end the day with some great conversations and hopefully inspiration that we all can take away, right? And do something in our personal lives and our professional lives. Now, I know this is Darko Petrovic, who I've gotten to know over the last 3-4 years, who has become a dear friend. And you are an inspiration to me, really, you are, you're amazing. And the work that you represent and the work that you do is so important in this world. And I find that World Food Programme is often a lesser understood organization than some of the other UN entities like a UNICEF or even or a UN Environment Program or WHO. But it's one of the largest agencies in the UN, and it's doing incredible work. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. But before we dive into the work itself, I'd like to ask you a few questions, because as I got to know you, I got to learn your story and your history and what brought you here, because you have a career in the games industry. I mean, you're a lifelong humanitarian. So share with the audience how you got to this moment.
Yeah, it's a long story. First of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining actually the session today. It's a long story. When you look back at, I'm 40 years now, 41 in fact, and when I look back, there were many moments of reflection, and I can say, games and play have been an integral part of my life. Now, you may think, as a child, of course, it's obvious when you're a child, you play, this is your job, right? But for me, games and play have been more than, fun or entertainment. It has been actually a form of survival. So, we've been talking with, colleagues here in the room, also over dinners, in different ways, how we have been surviving. I had a very rough childhood. My family home has been broken, basically parents separating, and then a new home almost also being broken. And in that environment of adversity, uncertainty, you grow up very fast. And games and play have been a way for me to cope with that adversity, to escape the stress, to escape the fights, to also feel safe somehow, but also to connect to other people, to also integrate in a new society. I'm half Polish, half Serbian. I moved to Germany when I was 12 and had to learn a new language, and games and play have been a way for me to integrate and to find new friends. Not just video games, but also sports. Basketball was...
Oh, surprise, surprise, you're a basketball player?
That's what we do in Serbia, So that was really a way to cope, to connect, to find a way of thriving on top of surviving. And going further than along the lines, during my actual line of work when I was a humanitarian, like hardcore in the field, games and play have been a way to decompress. So when you are somewhere in the jungle or in an emergency, you actually connect around a tabletop game with colleagues. You have your sessions of humor, and you you're able to rest. And the final one, and I think what really brought me here into this conversation a couple of years ago, I don't really talk much about it, but I guess it's important to really mention this. I got diagnosed with cancer. So that was, that was 4 years ago in 2022. I was based in Barbados for a mission, and I was diagnosed with late-stage blood cancer. So after that, my wife and I, we had to evacuate to Austria, where we live, get the whole, treatment, surgery, chemo, immune therapy, stem cell transplant, all kinds of stuff. Rough period. But in that moment, in this isolation ward where I could not be in touch with people physically, I started playing games again. Mobile games, in this sense, a basketball game with my best man, and it was a way of coping with this adversity, but then also being inspired and thinking about, okay, what's next? I cannot go back to the humanitarian work as it was. I have to do something else. Oh, gaming, yes, there is something here. This connects with who I am, with my playfulness. So I started basically researching about this, games, social impact. Have we done something at WFP on that front? Have we, developed any games, done any fundraising? I had ideas of my own based on this playful, moment in the hospital. And one thing led to the other, connecting to people, colleagues, staff. So then we basically pitched the whole, initiative to really build on what we did in WFP for 20 years.
Darko, thank you for sharing that story with us, and I know how deeply personal and private that experience can be, and it does demonstrate how games can be life-saving, and how you felt, in the hospital room, I can see how that's, a lifeline, and we hear a lot from people who work in the hospital sector with children about how bringing games into the hospital rooms are really helps with normalcy, right,
yeah,
in their lives. But I'd love to, I hope we are going to talk about what actually what WF does in the field, right? Because I think that's really, really interesting. But I think maybe we can get to that point starting from the point of what WFP has done with the games industry, because I know you surfaced some things that you're really surprised about, and then I knew some things, you're right, about that it's not a new venture for WFP, but it certainly is a new focus, right? A renewed focus now. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, and just before I jump into this, I want to say, in my conversations with people from the industry, with game designers, I often come across this question like, oh, wow, you work for the UN. I only develop games. I only do games. And I'm telling them, wait a minute, no. You don't just do games. Games are a lifesaver for many people. They are a life changer for many people. Do what you do best. Keep going. This is, helping people survive and thrive in many ways. So this is what I want to say. There's no need for this kind of dismissiveness. I think we really have to, in this room maybe not, but outside, to appreciate this craft as a lifesaver. So in terms of WFP, this is what we do. We save lives. We've changed lives. We are a relief organization. We are active in war zones, in natural disaster zones. We provide humanitarian relief. This is 80% of what we do. But also we help people transition from a situation of humanitarian crisis into stability, into recovery, into a pathway of stability, peace, and thriving again. And we have been doing this also with the help of games. So presentation on, please. I think if we can. Yes, there it is. So this is basically our gaming journey for the last 20 or so years. We had about 30 different experiences in the area of fundraising, in the area of education, using games as a training tool for our own staff, using games to actually design humanitarian interventions. So on complex concepts like microinsurance or financial literacy, how to engage with local communities in a way that is understandable, that is effective, that also can provide good feedback, and using gamification to gamify certain campaigns or certain tools for them to be engaging. So some of the people in the room actually have been involved in one of those games, one of those experiences. And I would like to highlight on this note Food Force. So Peter, is Peter here somewhere? Yes, there he is. Everybody, big applause for Peter.
Tell him what they did.
Yes, so I discovered Peter yesterday at our WFP shrine that we have over there, powered by our colleagues from the Korean University, SKKU. Peter was one of the designers of the Food Force game 20 years ago. So it's an educational video game that we have used to teach young people in schools around the world on what WFP is all about, with certain missions on how to operate WFP vehicles, what problems to solve, put yourself in the shoes of WFP staff. And that was, at that time, actually quite a revolutionary experience, I have to say. And it's inspired actually more of similar serious games to talk about tough topics. And this is something that I would love to also be available still for people to play and try it out as a legacy experience. And we had 6 million downloads. We had different events, attending different events and different conventions. So powerful experience where everything started.
So thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Can you go back to the slide one more time? So another one here that stands out for me is free rice.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, well, free rice, it's also, it didn't really come from us personally, but it came from a teacher from the US who wanted his kid to learn and better prepare for classes in school. I think it was about math. And so he developed actually a trivia game, browser-based, where his child had to solve certain problems, and it was like multiple choice question, and that was super successful. And he actually donated this game to WFP in 2007. And ever since, we have been using this to actually raise awareness in schools among educators, and also to raise funding. It's also a fundraising tool. So whenever you when you answer certain questions correctly, you unlock rice corns. That can also feed school kids in other parts of the world if there is, a sponsor behind it. So that's still alive. You can still play it. freerice.com.
Yeah, it's one of the OGs, right? Like when we think about, same thing with Food Force, about the application of games.
Yes.
In these, in these serious areas. And who would have thought that World Food Program would have been, involved at that time?
Yeah.
Did anyone imagine, does this develop as a portfolio?
No.
What did you discover?
Not at all. So what you see here is actually a collection of experiences we had which were pretty much scattered. People took it upon themselves to do stuff. Zynga is actually one good example. We have Zynga here also in the room. Big it up for Zynga, with whom we did, yes, definitely. The first in-game purchase fundraiser for the earthquake in Haiti. I think we mobilized $1.5 million in 5 days only.
Wow.
That was in 2010. So all these things happen in isolation of each other. And when I came into this conversation, basically 3 years ago after this whole cancer experience was, okay, what do we do in terms of games? Like, should we develop a game about WFP? No, there was no need for it. This was the initial idea. But then, with the ideation process unfolding, it was then, taken to the side and said, we don't need that. We don't need a product. We need a business model that can actually connect these dots, can elevate them to a strategic level, and that can help us really work with the gaming industry in a more sustainable, more impactful, more long-term manner that can address problems that are escalating around us. So now we have a portfolio, and now we have a strategy.
Well. It is amazing that all this activity happened, right? By being started by passionate employees, like workers at WFP who believed in games along the way. And I mean, it's really a really just remarkable slide. And kudos to you for being able to shepherd this story through to those who make decisions at WFP, to show that games need to be a meaningful part of our impact strategy. And thank you for bringing the opportunity to Games for Change to play a little part in that. So what do you think that can be done now that you couldn't do before?
I mean, right now, what is the benefit of having the portfolio approach? We are, of course, in a much better position to propose, how we can solve certain problems. And also, we're able to connect among staff better. We're able to use the collective intelligence better on what we need to solve certain problems and how games can play a role in that. So we are in a much better position to articulate our needs. But also what we can bring to the table, how we can support also the growth of the ecosystem in countries where we work. And we work in a lot of, fragile contexts, also conflict-ridden contexts, how we can support people there to cope with those contexts, but also to develop experiences and to use gaming as a way of, generating a livelihood. Yeah.
So this kind of brings me to like this moment that, one, you've got a room full of developers, producers, publishers. It's clear to me, and we've talked about this before, that as humans on this planet, we all need to think about and see how we can help support those in crisis. What do you think about ways in which to work with the gaming industry? What has emerged from the strategy?
I think one has to be very clear in terms of what the objective you want to achieve when you work with the industry, also what problem you want to solve. And for us, obviously, we are fighting hunger, right? But hunger is not only about there's an emergency, we need fundraising for relief intervention. It's much more complex than that. We can also work on the roots of hunger, on the roots of food insecurity, to generate system change, because the problem of hunger is not really about there is a disaster or there is a conflict, and so we have to now throw humanitarian aid at this. It's also about the inefficiency of the food system that we have. So it's a question of distribution, and that system itself is not working, neither for the planet nor for the people that inhabit the planet. So my call to action would be, how can we work together to actually teach, to engage, to give tools to a new generation of change makers who are fluent in the tools of tomorrow, in the stories of tomorrow, to tell stories, to design solutions, to think about systems, how to change them by bringing those systems into the game mechanics and the game system itself. And then out of that system, again, into the real world. So the invitation is to be part of something wider than humanitarian emergency, like really gaming the system, or gaming the food system in that sense.
Oh, what is that?
Oh.
That sounds interesting.
What a keyword. What's the food system? So maybe just before the food system, I want to say a few words about where we are.
Oh, please do.
Where we are now. So why is this important? Why all this matters right now? Of course, we have transitioned to be more effective in terms of engaging the gaming industry, but also the moment is very important because we are at a watershed moment in terms of the hunger situation in the world, but also the climate crisis, right? And these two things, they cannot be thought of in separation with each other, right? They have to be looked at together. They are two sides of the same coin, climate and environment on the one hand, food systems, food security on the other hand. Right now, we have the situation that over 300 million people around the world are acutely hungry, so they don't know where their next meal will come from. They are on the way to, on the way of starvation, basically, if we don't intervene. But at the same time, we have 1 billion people who are overweight or obese, right? And I just read a few days ago, there was a UNICEF report coming out last year that last year, for the first time in history, there are more children who are children in school-going age and adolescents that are obese compared to undernourished. So you have this double crisis that is happening in terms of the food system. So we have to think of food systems not only in terms of people, starving, but people not getting the right diet at the right time, at the right age. So what can we do as educators in this space, as game developers, to actually inspire action, inspire change, to solve this global food crisis, to solve also, the awareness of climate situation that we have with El Nino now. So El Nino is big, it's real, it's happening. This year we're going to have, over the next 12 months, a massive, let's say, a version of the El Nino. And this is an opportunity to actually really connect the agendas of, playing for the planet, right? And I honestly believe this is one of the first steps we can do. We can play more for the planet, because that will mean that we will also play more for the people. And so what I want to your point with the gaming the food system, so we are going to, with Games for Change, announce a campaign in October of this year. So this is a soft launch, if you want to look at it that way, to actually inspire the change to game the food system, to bring about a new generation of change makers, of young people who understand the topic, who don't look at food as something separate, something that is just happening, that is disconnected from the environment, from climate, from nature, but where both are at an interplay with each other. And how can we nourish that and nurture that knowledge for the young people to also take action to affect a better tomorrow? So games can be this tool to give agency. And that's the beauty about that, and to understand complex system. And that's what we really appreciate.
So this partnership, which I'm very proud of, hopefully will shepherd in a lot of opportunities for partnership as well from other facets of the industry. We are working together to mobilize our incredible industry and community to contribute in gaming the food system in a variety of ways. And I think do you have a slide on the different kind of activations that we are thinking about, or how we have been working together?
So in terms of the gaming the food system, this is an invitation for, it's an umbrella campaign where we want to invite different stakeholders who are already taking initiative. And Games for Change already has the Games for Change Student Challenge, right? There are also other game jams taking place. There are also games around the world which tackle the issue of food in different ways, be it a cooking game, be it a farming sim, being whatever else that you can imagine. Even a civilization building game has its own resource mobilization and food system elements in it. So let's connect the dots. Let's see how we can use our collective intelligence and resources to actually inspire a new generation of change makers, to give them the tools to do this, to think through the problem, but not only to do it in the game, through gameplay or through game design, but to also take these lessons, this learning, into the world and actually game their own food system. So your school canteen, your workplace canteen, how can we game that? How can we change that food system? Can we maybe restore land, plant trees that can actually restore the biodiversity, that can restore our food production capacity? What about insect hotels? Maybe we can build that, as part of a separate follow-up project. So this is about understanding, and it's about inspiring action. And it's also about supporting WFP in restoring land where, it's being degraded.
Great.
And if I can also say, you can game the food system, but also play for the planet, right? Playing for the planet is playing for people. And I know in the last couple of months, especially, the media has been very, negative in terms of all kinds of news happening, right? El Nino is the one. Then you have the whole AMOC that is, 50% of collapsing. All kinds of news that are coming that are really disheartening. I think there is one media output, which is a documentary that I would warmly recommend, which is Groundswell. If you have not yet heard about Groundswell, check it out. It's a story of hope, of how nature and food systems interact and how we can create a regenerative future that actually works for all. And that's a story of hope that we also want to use as an example to promote. So, but there's one more way.
Okay.
I think we can
Let's
take
talk
some
about
action. All right. So, gaming the food system is one opportunity. The other one, of course, you have heard Venezuela has been struck by another earthquake almost a month ago. So through our team at WFP USA, we have partnered with the Global Game Jam to actually address this immediate humanitarian crisis, which is unfolding in Venezuela, which is still very acute, where people are still struggling, nowhere near relief. So this weekend, starting from Friday, and there's Maria. Maria, you're around. She is the go-to person. So she was approaching us based on demand from game developers in Venezuela to organize a game jam that could actually bring the community of game developers together to develop games for that cause, but also to fundraise, to stream, to donate. So if you want to help immediately in Outplaying Hunger, that's one opportunity. So please, scan the QR code, and there's more information.
I want to, before we wrap up this conversation, I'd love to ask you, 5 years from now, what do you hope the games and the community can do to help food insecurity?
So I believe
like your vision.
So the vision, there are multiple ways we can work together and achieve objectives. I think the most important one is really to nurture a new generation of change makers. People who can, through game design, understand complex systems, and not just understand, but actually once they advance beyond game design in real life as a parent, as someone leading a company, as someone owning a foundation, who knows where we will end up, that you take this experience with you and that you actually, informed by this experience, are part of the solution. So 5 years from now, 10 years, 15 years from now, we want really to leverage gaming to nurture a new generation of responsible citizens, of good gamers, right? We talked about this morning, of change makers, of people who care and who are fluent in the technology of tomorrow. So that's why gaming for us is a beautiful opportunity.
That's great. So to wrap up, and I want to thank you so much for sharing the stage with me and for all of your, you've been a champion for the use of games within the UN system, and I know that's no easy feat. And so really thank you. Thank you for believing in our medium to drive this kind of change. Yes. This announcement, is the begining of us putting things into action over the next, not only next couple of months, but the next 3 years, right? We are going to be much more vocal in terms of what the actual opportunities are to participate as we get closer to October. But we would love to have conversations with anyone in this room or within your networks now to start talking about what's possible. So please feel free to reach out to Darko or to myself, and we can start those conversations. And I want to thank you so much. Here we go. Yep, thank you so much. It's a wonderful partnership. Our colors go really well together. I like how they blend.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Really nice design. So thank you, and thank you for joining us and hopefully coming along with us on this journey. Okay. All right.
And also I want to thank you and your wonderful team, your wonderful leadership, and your wonderful board who have been really part of this journey. And I look forward to working with you. Our whole team at WFP USA, we're really thrilled to be part of this partnership.
Thank you very much.